Sir Kaftans. This is another one I'm still having some fights about because some people are like, well, you only found one resource that talks about it, and it's Louis Mackey, who may be a little crazy. She's the lady who keeps saying, no, the Italians are the most important thing that happened in the history of island clothing ever! And you're like, girl, I think you need to chill. I'm liking the Ottomans too. I'm liking the Italians too. They're good people, but most important thing, I think you need to stay. So I love this coat. But this coat was made years and years ago. This is what we call Asim gets halfway there. But it has some really great aspects that I want to show you because there is a category of what we call Sir Kaftans. And Sir Kaftans are over kaftans. They are kaftans that are basically built to look really cool. They are mostly, as far as I can tell, only worn by sultans and people of high rank and status. These are basically the coats that you'll hear about, the robes of honor. These are the coats that would be made for robes of honor, and things like that. So they were basically for people who are important, not worn by the hoi polloi. But they have some interesting aspects that you see a lot of, and there's a second style Thaddeus book that was really excellent in determining some of this. They are incredibly long sleeved. What they would have is these long sleeves, and some of them even have sleeves that go past your fingertips down to the ground. And you would have a little slit right about where your hand would be, and that's where you poke through your arm to do stuff with it. So they're very long. They tend to be even stiffer than the standard stiff, starched up, woven till it almost cries silk kaftans. And those, and they would not actually be buttoned, by and large, because they just kind of go over whatever 2 or 3 kaftans you're already wearing. That's a lot of fabric. It's a little heavy at that point. Then people are like, oh man, but they're worn. So, but the actual construction is very similar to a kaftan in most regards. Nothing particularly spectacular about them. Let's see. Yeah, if you look at illustration 4, for those of you that I'm sorry. The length of this and the style of this would be very much like an over kaftan. Sleeving is not so much, except it probably could work if you made it really big, and then you just have your under kaftans showing, much like with this lady here in her garb. But that's a Sir Kaftan. Very simple, basically a kaftan that's had most of the fancy stuff stripped away, and it's just made of fancier out fabric and of the like. Any questions about that?
Wool weights for the outer layer, are they largely like a lighter grape, or do you see any
heavier?
So more of like a mountain weight?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's the farther out you get, the heavier the weight of the fabric tends to be.
Okay.
Velvets. There's some other weaving stuff that's an IPEC that goes into it's basically reconstruction level detail.
Yeah, I've seen that book. It's actually quite cool.
Yeah, on how it all works out. But very basically, yeah, the farther, that's part of why I say keep it pretty simple for this, because the farther out you get, if you're trying to actually reproduce it, the heavier the fabric is. And it's really hard to find extremely heavyweight silk. Not to mention it costs you a small fortune. The one place I found that actually sells on a regular basis is in Syria. The last time I looked, which was last year, they started at $60 a yard.
Yeah.
And
Mistress Jessamine has some sources for ecclesiastical silks that she used for Byzantine that's
Right.
comfortable in weave. And I don't know if the patterns would work.
Yeah, the patterns are a little, I've seen some of her stuff, the patterns are a little shaky from my perspective. But I guess I'm picky.
Now that one is online.
What's that?
Now that one is online.
Yeah, like I said, Asim gets halfway there. I was still doing a lot of research when this was made, and I wasn't sure if it was lined or not. It was built for Penzic essentially.